Uh, bling, hey, we're live. Every time we record, I say we're live, and we're not live. We're recording.
Yeah, just so everyone else knows, we've literally just had 3 minutes of like, oh, we're live. We're not.
Yeah, no, we're not. All right, so Ella, you're on again. This is the third video that we've done. I think the second one that I've done that I'm putting on my site. I'm not as good at you as going back and documenting notes and all those kinds of things and putting that stuff in there. So if you're watching there, you just have to watch the whole freaking thing. All right, if you want to get stuff out of it, you just watch the whole thing.
We can go to the first comment. I'm pretty sure I'll put it down anyway.
Yeah. Okay. You're a lot more anal about that stuff than I am.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're going to talk about a couple of different things, right? So Ella, you focus in your coaching on people that are already at a really good body composition level, have a low percent body fat, higher muscle mass, and are looking to kind of take things to that next level of physique. Maybe they're bodybuilders, maybe they're physique competitors, or they just want to really get lean and just look ripped all the time.
Absolutely.
And I work more with the population of men who are out of shape, who are above 15%, 20% body fat, in the 30s, 40%, and are trying to get to a healthy range of, I try to start off getting people at least to 25% and below. For most of the people that I work with. So we have very similar ideas and concepts and methodologies that we use, and we believe a lot of the same things, and we interpret the data and the science and stuff like that very similarly, but we have different goals for people that we work with. So I figured it'd be interesting for people to kind of hear, like, how can the same concepts be applied to different people who have different goals, coming from different areas and that kind of stuff, and then take it the next level and talk about what is the difference between nutrition and fitness for health versus nutrition and fitness for performance or physique, right?
Okay.
Because again, overlap but different, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, in talking about the challenge is getting someone, say 35, 40% down to that 15% range. And then the challenge is getting someone from that 15, 12% down to the sub 10%. They're actually, as exactly you said, they're very, very similar. And I kind of picture them both as a bit of a rubber band, So I find that people, when they are in that 40%, 35% body fat, they're there because of lifestyle factors. And there's a lot of cognitive dissonance and thoughts and issues and emotional problems that need to be disentangled inside their head as part of like that, that one-on-one coaching you have. In order to get someone down to that place, there's a lot of habits and things like that, routines that you need to be able to build to develop that lifestyle versus getting someone down to that sub 10% level. That's really where you start to see the rubber band coming into effect, as you get closer and closer to that standpoint. Your body fights you harder and harder. And you need to be a little bit more, not strict, I don't like using the word strict, but you need to be very more focused in your actions in order to get down and maintain those kind of levels.
I like to say deliberate.
Deliberate, yeah, that's actually a really good word. I like that.
Deliberate in your actions. Like everything you take has to be specifically for this reason.
Exactly.
When you're at a really bad point, a bad place health-wise, almost anything that you do that's positive is going to get you closer to where you want to be. But when you, like you say, when that rubber band starts getting stretched out to its max, like you have to really focus on what you're doing to make sure you stretch it without breaking it.
Exactly.
So yeah.
And I think some people who are, fit, I think they do very, very poorly, I think, become quite disparaging towards people who are at a higher percent body fat. And I don't think they recognize the challenges that are actually, and I say this from someone who was obese when they were younger, I don't think they really recognize the challenges that's required for you to change your mindset. In some ways, they're actually even more challenging because, I could turn around and say to you that I want you to eat this food at this time, do this activity, and you'd be like, yeah, okay, no worries. That doesn't affect you on a personal and emotional level. Like, it doesn't change your identity as a person.
Right.
But for you, when you're telling someone who's 40% body fat, that's just like, hey, look, I don't want you to try and feel restricted around food. I just want you to eat whole, natural foods. Eat until you're hungry, like eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full. You'll have guys who are crying just because they've literally never been told before in their life just to go do that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I just wanted to come to a point why we do, I think we focus at helping different groups. I think it's worthwhile just pointing out at this point that doesn't undermine the challenges from either.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's much like fitness, right? Fitness is a concept that everybody needs to apply to their life. but everybody's got different goals. Everyone's coming from a different place, right? The things that we need as a human being for fitness is the same for everybody, but maybe not the same level, maybe not the same intensity, maybe not the same tools can be applied to a lifestyle for you versus me, right? So that flexibility is there, but the challenges are all very similar no matter where you're at or where you're going.
Absolutely.
Okay. Good.
So I think for me, it's always been about the cornerstone has always been about habits. So I spoke before about the rubber band being stretched, and I use that analogy with clients all the time, because you exactly as you said, you have to be more deliberate and more deliberate. And the thing is, I like to say that we've only got so many fucks to give in a day. You know what I mean? And if you're spending all of your fucks on Debbie at work who's being a bitch, then you're not going to care about the fact that
damn you, Debbie.
Yeah, fuck you, Debbie. Sorry, guys, I swear a lot. I'm Australian, forgive me. Yeah, so if you're worried about things at work or other things like that, then you're not really going to care about making the decisions that you need to do to be deliberate in your eating to get down to those % body fat. Yeah. Same thing is that if you're having a bad day at work, you're not going to have the willpower to resist the mental traps that you would have had that have led you to being that 35-40%.
Sure.
So in reality, whilst the actions are different, the common thread is the habits. The habits around what you do. I don't preach to people that we eat specific foods or we count macros or do things. We have a list of foods that we eat. This is just what I do. This is your lifestyle.
Right.
Same as exercise. Exercise, if you're exercising and it's something you don't enjoy, you're doing the wrong exercise.
Yeah, I totally. That's a really good thing to say, because people will think that they have to force themselves to do something, and the act of forcing yourself to do something you don't want to do is a much larger hurdle than getting yourself to say, I'm going to find something that I enjoy that's going to get me closer to my goals. It doesn't have to be something that's super intense. I see it all the time, right? People come in and they go, I can't do CrossFit, it's too hard. So they don't do anything.
Yeah.
Like, find something else. If CrossFit you think is too hard for you, then go freaking push a ball around your backyard for half an hour. Like, find something else.
Go play with your kids.
Yeah, do something more than what you're doing. So, yeah. Find something that you enjoy doing that's going to get you moving in the right direction. As that becomes a habit, then naturally, we want to progress. Naturally, human beings look for what's next. So when something becomes rote, when something becomes normal, and you're interested in trying to progress, you're going to naturally want something that's at the next level. So if you think, hey, you know what, all I can handle right now is going for a walk half an hour every day, then do that. After a couple months of that, you're gonna be like, this is boring, I need something more. And then you're gonna, okay, maybe I'm gonna run for half a mile every day. And okay, after a couple months of that, this is boring, I need something more. Like, it's going to naturally progress. As you improve, as you get better, your body, your mind, you're going to want more. So you don't have to start at what you think is a super high extreme thing that's so overwhelmingly, there's no way that's gonna happen, right? Start small, work your way up. Nutrition's the same way. I talk to people all the time and they're like, oh, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. It's like, just for now, look, if all you can handle is, you know what, let's just stop and look at what you're eating every day. I tell you what, don't do anything, just stop drinking a Coke every day.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I want you to do. If that's what it takes to get you moving in the right direction, just stop drinking a Coke.
Congratulations, you just cut out 350 calories.
Right, exactly. If you still want to have those Twizzlers every day, go for it, but just stop the Coke.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We'll get to the Twizzlers in a couple months or a couple weeks, whatever it may be, right? Just stop the Coke for now. It doesn't have to be something huge. And that's one of the aspects, I think, that a lot of people don't understand, is that they come in and everyone's always worried about, I don't think I can do it, because they think it's such a big change that they have to make.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: how do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
And we're creatures of habit, and I'm coming back through to this, and there are this giant list of habits of things that, me and you, we don't even consider, of things that we need, like, that are challenging or anything. They're just things that we do.
Right.
But for someone else who has, due to lifestyle factors, has, is sedentary, is at 35% body fat, doesn't know how to eat, not because they're ignorant towards it, they just have never been shown,
Yeah.
they've got all these habits that have been put in place over a lifetime that are taking away from the goal. And what we need to do is individually, one by one, replace those habits, because you can't ever break a habit, you can only ever replace it.
Absolutely. And that's
replace those habits.
That's huge. A lot of people think of like, well, what am I going to do? I can't do this. What am I going to do? Well, we'll find something that's healthy. We'll find something that's good for 100%. You to replace it with. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's okay. And we replace these habits, one at a time in a very methodical manner. And the thing is, over time, exactly as you said, you'll do that for a week and be like, okay, this is boring, what's next? We are always striving to do what's better. The human brain, as much as we love homeostasis, we want to stay the same. We hate being stagnant.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's that dichotomy, right? Our body loves to be at a level all the time, but at the same time, we grow. Like we cannot be stagnant, because if our body is not growing, if it's not repairing, if it's not building, then we're dying, right? So the homeostasis, I like to say that homeostasis is the consistent consistent activity of growth, not the consistent activity of nothing. Right? Right? Because otherwise, okay, I'm active you can't be active and doing nothing at the same time, right? Our body's always doing something. So it's either going to be doing something to progress, or it's going to be doing something from a fitness and health perspective, to get bigger, right? We're either going to be doing activity, or that energy is going to get stored up and our body's just going to grow, not in the way that we want.
Yeah. What is it? Lifting weights don't make girls big. Cupcakes make girls big.
Yeah.
So you mentioned before talking about if it fits your macros, and in particular to do with nutrition. I think this is actually a really good time to segue to talk about that, only because we're talking about habits at the moment. Now, like, as a bit of a full disclosure, I actually have a bit of an issue in general with not the concept, but the execution of if it fits your macros. So for anyone who's not familiar, who's watching, if it fits your macros is essentially a philosophy that foods individually don't matter. All that really matters is the individual building blocks, the chemical components of those foods, which then when we pull apart, we can then use to make energy.
Right.
Now, so the idea is, if you're eating X amount of protein, carbs, and fat from a Big Mac, it's the exact same as if you were going to eat that same amount of energy from chicken breast, unprocessed broccoli, and a little bit of sweet potato.
Right. Yes.
Right.
So I think this is another thing that we're going to be lockstep on, as far as everything that you're about to say. So I'm just going to let you keep talking, because you're probably going to say everything and more that I would say about the whole IIFYM.
Okay. So what's really interesting about I'll say the good things about this first. What is good about it is that it breaks the mentality of restriction. So it tells someone that as long as you are controlling your diet and you're working in the right direction, you will get results. And you do absolutely get results with it, right? Because you are controlling your intake. And it promotes flexibility, which is its major benefit. It helps adherence, because you're not restricted. Like, if you are feeling like you want a burger, or you want some chips, or you want the chances are you can, over a week, you could probably work it into your plan somewhere.
Sure.
There are some big people on Instagram and YouTube who have gotten incredibly famous just by simply starving themselves for 48 hours and then binge eating on like cereal, ice cream, and pancakes in one big sitting, because it fits their macros and that's what they can do.
Right.
Right. The problem with this is that the concept that the food itself is purely just broken down into the base chemical building blocks is actually false. So there is something called the incretin response to food.
Yep.
Right. So very, very broadly, because this is a topic that is well above my pay grade, and honestly is probably 3 or 4 videos just in itself.
Right.
The incretin response to food really talks about the fact that our guts and cells actually have receptors to the food. So, for example, you actually have sweet receptors inside your small intestine.
Okay.
which is odd. You're literally tasting your own.
Yeah. Interesting. I don't know if I want to think about that. Okay.
Yeah, I don't really want to think about it either, but it's true, right? And similarly, there's a lot of research actually pointing out the fact that the same food processed to a higher degree actually has higher insulin responses, has slower higher glucose clearance out of the bloodstream, is more likely to lead to adipose tissue gain rather than body mass gains.
Yep.
So, for example, if you were to eat a good example is just raw potato, right? It would clear out of your system very, very slowly. However, if you were then to eat a boiled potato, it's a little bit faster. If you then mash it, it's faster again. If you dehydrate it and turn it into potato starch and then rehydrate it, it's faster yet again. You know what I mean? And it's the exact same food, same macros,
right.
And yet it's having a completely different hormonal profile inside your body.
Yeah, I think.
So
do you follow Dr. Tro at all?
I do. Yep.
Okay,
Jillian's really awesome.
Yeah, I think he just posted a paper, an article that he wrote about. Man, I can't remember. I don't know if it was the carb one or the one he did before that, where he cited a study where a bunch of people, two different people, same macros but different quality of food. One was processed, one was whole, and just showed their body composition after X number of weeks and how it was different. Same macros, right? But the people that were whole food, their adipose tissue was lower, their cholesterol was better. Like they had all these different things because the food is different. And it's
exactly. So, I mean, if we think about insulin, so insulin is not a bad thing, right? But if we think about insulin as
I'm so tired of people saying it's bad.
Oh my God. If we think about insulin as the primary nutrient partitioning agent in your body, right?
Yep.
It's the kind of the master switch. It works out where things are going. And it doesn't always, high insulin doesn't always mean that you're gaining fat, by the way. Right? High insulin can mean that you're gaining muscle. And that's why bodybuilders inject with insulin.
Sure.
But I digress. Right? So if we think about insulin as being like the primary partitioning agent in the body, working out if it's going to muscle, going to fat, if you're going to wee it out, if you're just going to breathe it out as ketones. It turns out that not only how much we process the food affects the hormonal response to that food itself, but then even the order that we eat them is important. Okay. So I mentioned before that we had taste receptors through our small intestine. Those are known as the I, L, and K receptors. Now, the K receptor in particular actually picks up sweet taste. Right? Okay. What ends up happening is if that receptor picks up a sweet taste, it assumes that there is sugar in it. So if you were to have something that was sweetened, that was calorically loaded, but didn't have any sugar, let's say that you, for some weird reason, decided to sweeten a piece of steak.
Sure.
Right? The insulin response to that steak is actually higher than if that steak wasn't sweetened.
Interesting. Okay.
Right? If you were to eat a steak with mashed potato, right? If you were to eat the mashed potato first and then the steak, you'd have a higher insulin response than if you eat the steak than the potato.
Sure. Okay.
So we're talking about like all of these things, are calories in a calorie, because there's different macronutrients. Well, it's deeper than that. A macro isn't a macro. How processed that macro is changes how we respond to it.
Sure.
The order that we eat that macro changes our response to it. The timing that we eat it. We're more insulin sensitive in the morning. Therefore, when you eat changes our response to that food. Sure. So the idea of it doesn't matter. As long as the ledger on the left equals the ledger on the right, you're fine, is completely false.
Yeah. And it's really challenging to combat that, because all people see is these ripped guys, these ripped girls on Instagram and in the internet, eating Twizzlers after every workout, or skip a bag of Twizzlers after every workout. And like, well, if that's what they're doing, it must work for, it must be cool. What they're not seeing, and what I try to talk to people about, is I want to see what those people's blood work looks like. I want to see what their inflammation levels are like. I want to see all these other markers of health. And someone who's you can do IIFYM on a whole foods program, right?
You absolutely
it doesn't have to be like the whole idea of if it fits your macros means I can eat whatever the hell I want to eat, does not generate a good relationship with food, right? It skews the idea of what health is. So when that person is done competing or doing whatever it is that they're doing, when they're, maybe they're 25 or 30 years old now, when they're 50 years old and they're not hitting the gym as much as they used to, and they're trying to figure out, now, how do I eat? They're not going to have any freaking idea what they're doing, because they realize, well, crap, I can't eat Twizzlers all day anymore.
Exactly.
How is this going to work? Like, it messes
well, I
up.
mean, look at athletes. There are athletes, particularly endurance runners, who are smashing 1,500 grams worth of carbohydrates a day, and they're developing diabetes.
Yeah.
These guys are ripped, jacked athletes, and they're diabetic.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So that discussion is a whole nother video. I think that is, I feel like, is almost being, quick segue, is almost being beat to death, but I don't think it can be beat to death enough. And that is the need for carbs in athletes, and just where that's all going.
Yeah.
We could probably get you, me, Kala, Rob, Marty, like, get everybody on a video and just get all of us talking about that. That could be really cool.
It'd be great, because we all sit around and we're like, we don't need them. It's like, okay, guys, we want to.
Yeah. Now what?
So just, I'm a big fan of like trying to give people usable advice. So I was sitting there and I've ragged on if it fits your macros for a little bit. I think the short answer is, and this is what I do with our clients, what I like about if it fits your macros is the flexibility. It helps your relationship with food, because you don't feel restricted. But when you consider the fact that not all foods are equal, and when you also consider the fact that things like meal plans and highly prescriptive options are very effective, but they produce bad relationships with food because you don't learn how to eat again. My solution is to go like a bit of a middle ground solution. So what we do is I create like a template. So you eat a certain portion size of a meat, and there is a list of substitutions that you can swap in and out as you see fit. And then there's another meal template and another meal template. And you literally just swap, change, and do things as you need to. So, for example, if I had you planning to eat, let's say someone comes to me, they say, "Oh, look, I'm not really hungry for breakfast." I'm like, "Great, we'll put on fasting for you," and then I might give them, say, 500 or 600 grams worth of a semi-lean piece of meat for breakfast at around 11 or 1 o'clock, somewhere between there.
Just real quick,
let's say,
what is 500 grams of meat? Because we're in the U.S.
Oh, it's about a pound. About a pound and a bit.
All right.
A pound and an ounce or something.
You Australians and your weird numbers.
I know, right? How dare we use the real use freedom numbers, damn it. The portion size is irrelevant. Essentially, if it comes to lunchtime and they're not hungry, that same portion can just be moved to dinner.
Sure.
Or if I've got them down on a lower calorie day and I've put down a piece of chicken, then we could swap that in with extra like 97% beef.
Right.
Or you could make yourself some protein ice cream if that's what you want to do, or things like that. Ideally, I prefer you just to stick to the whole foods rather than protein powders and things like that.
Sure.
But the idea is that you have a plan, and you just literally every single day you just massage it just that little bit, just to fit your routine. Because I don't want it to be something that you think about. I don't want it to be something that you have to focus on or to do or to to spend your fox on. It's literally just like, oh, it's lunchtime, am I hungry yet? And like, no, I'll eat it later. Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're very similar in that. I basically give a daily goal. Here's what I want you to hit by the end of the day. It doesn't matter. I don't care if you do it at breakfast. I don't care if you do it at lunch. If you decide, hey, you know what? I'm just going to jam it all in my mouth in one meal. Hey, go for it. If you're comfortable doing that, I can't do that because I eat a lot of food, right? I've seen some of the meals that you prepare and that you eat. It's probably more than I do. But I average 3 meals a day and about a pound of meat a day, each meal, right? And for me, that works for me. A pound at a time. Yeah, like how does that fill you up? It's not I don't get full per se. I get satisfied. Yeah. So I don't eat till I'm full. I eat till I'm satisfied, and then usually about 2.5, 3 hours later, I eat again. And I try to get all my eating in about 8 hours. Okay, so you're kind of like doing a flexible 16-8.
Yeah, 16, flexible 16-8. That's a good way to call it.
Okay, so just on that, I mean, if I was to eat about a pound of meat, I'd probably get hungry again in about that 2 to 3 hour mark. I tend to try and go for bigger meals just because I really don't like having to eat that often.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a pain in my butt. So for me, I normally, like, it's what, 5:30 now in the morning. I probably might get hungry around 10:30, 11. I'll probably wait until lunch-ish, maybe. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. And at the moment, I'm slowly dropping body fat just a little bit, just to kind of like lean up a little touch as we're coming into spring. So I'm eating about 3.5 pounds of meat a day on average, right? And again, there you go. I don't even count calories. I can't tell you how many calories it is. I'm counting portions.
That's exactly the same. Yep.
Yeah. So I'll eat, 3.5 pounds of meat. And if I'm really hungry at lunchtime, I might smash 2.5 pounds at lunch. But then, 6 hours later, as it comes to dinner, I'm kind of like pushing that last pound around the plate. Similarly, sometimes I'm not even that hungry, and I don't even have lunch, and then 3 pounds for dinner won't even fill me. So it's trying to apply a specific template to your body is just fraught with developing an eating disorder. And I say that as someone who actually actively suffers from an eating disorder from having done a competition prep previously.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and I think it would be very poor of me to have had that experience and then still subject someone else to the same potential outcome.
Right. Yeah, the restriction, the stress, the counting, the constant worry, am I doing the right thing? Like, just all those things that go into it. My wife did the same thing, and that was actually what got her into nutrition. She did a competition and then came out of that and was like, I am seriously screwed up right now.
Because you don't know how to eat.
Yeah, because you don't know. There's no concept of what food is actually doing to your body. It's just, how is this food going to make me look? And that's two completely different things, right? The health aspect.
Are they? No, I'm being genuinely serious, because like if you eat in a way, all right, this is me putting on my fucking hat, sitting on my soapbox now. Yeah. But if you're eating in a way that is specifically designed, or rather is in line with your own biology, so a human appropriate diet, guess what? Your HbA1c is going to be great. Your triglycerols are going to be great. Your body composition is going to be great.
Absolutely.
If you want to, I can literally tell someone, eat lean meat, and if you like that stuff, green veg too, I guess.
Yep.
But like, eat lean meat, green veg, and if you're not hungry, don't eat. And I can guarantee you wait 6 months and you'll be in that 15% body fat. Absolutely. It's really that fucking easy.
It is. And what I'm saying is that the nutrition that people currently, the traditional plan, right, that people go through for physique and bodybuilding and that look, is not teaching them about the health aspects. It's teaching them that if I eat this way, I'll look this way. But the goal is for the look. The goal is not for the health.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And it's the same thing with fitness. I don't tell, when I have a new client come to me as a fitness client, I don't tell them, okay, our goal is to give you a six pack. I tell them, our goal is to get you to be functionally fit. When you are fit, you will then look like you're fit. But let's talk about your fitness and your health first. Then you'll look that way. So I think that's where the difference is. And that's where the IIFYM mentality to me is flipped, is backwards. I would rather have someone say, look, what's healthy for me to eat? And then fit that into a plan or template that's going to fit my lifestyle, as opposed to, here's a plan or template that's going to fit what we want you to look like.
Well, and here's the thing. So a lot of carnivores, they talk about the fact that they needed to cut out sweeteners because they still maintained, this addiction to sweet food, right? No, I think that's actually really relevant to this discussion, and also for the IIFYM macros movement, because a lot of these foods, sweet foods, are not actually physiologically addictive, right? They can be psychologically addictive. So I'm not minimizing what someone is saying when they say that they felt addicted to sweet foods. I'm just saying physiologically, there isn't a mechanism for it. People talk about dopamine, but the research just doesn't support that, right? The thing is, though, when we come from a mindset of restriction, we attribute a higher value to these foods than what they really have.
Yes.
You know, and in that way, if it fits your macros are good, it's because you don't feel restricted from having those foods. And so you don't attribute a value to having chips. It's neither a good or a bad, it's just something that you can do.
Right.
Now, a lot of carnivores, when they come across, they start to attribute really negative values towards these foods, right? That if you have a grain of rice, you will literally die. Glucose is in fact the enemy. And yeah, you know, and believe it or not, that's actually orthorexia. That in itself is a form of eating disorder, because you are attributing a false good or bad label to a food and then restricting based on that label.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think a lot of that, in a really convoluted way, is kind of our fault, right? Not necessarily, not technically our fault, but for those of us that are trying to be vocal about, you know, the need for carbs and what a meat-based or animal-based diet can do for people, we kind of have to talk about certain things in a way to get people to kind of wake up a little bit and realize what they're doing. And I think many people, because we live in an age where people just take information and use it without filtering it, they hear that and they see that and they go, oh, all these people are out there saying carbs are bad, I can't ever have carbs, I'm going to die. And it's like, just because you don't need something doesn't mean you can't have it.
Correct.
Right. And I try to talk to people, and I've been accused so many times of, you're going to kill people, everybody needs carbs, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, guys, just relax. I'm saying you don't need them. That doesn't mean if you don't want to have carbs, you can't have carbs, right? Like, go out and have a freaking pizza, have a blast. Just understand what it's going to do to your body, understand what it's going to do to help you either reach or get away from your goals, and make an informed decision, right? I mean, it's about information, what you decide to do, nothing is inherently bad. Some things can be inherently bad, but in general, just live your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'll come back to the issues with if it fits your macros and why I actually think that develops a poor relationship with food in a moment. But I've had a mind blank. What were you just saying?
I was just talking about taking information and running with it, not filtering it, and that carbs aren't.
Yes.
We don't need them, but that doesn't mean we can't have them.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really common, I think, for us who do read into these, you know, the studies, and we're pulling apart all this information. We're trying to work out what is the base building blocks that someone really needs to understand in order to get the most amount of effect. Because I know I've only got your attention for this long.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And that's fine. You've got other things going on in your life, and I'm a nerd with nothing better to do. So I get that. Right. But sometimes to get that message across as quickly as possible, we have to make some logical fallacies. We have to state things that aren't strictly true. And although I know that they're not strictly true, the end state is the same. Whilst I'd love to take you on the journey, I just need you to know the answer. And then once you're moving in the right direction, I can start revealing more of that puzzle as I have more and more of your attention.
Yes, absolutely.
And exactly as you say, that, you know, sometimes, you know, I give out the key bits of information, and, you know, I've said this much, but I've only got this much of your attention, and all of a sudden that's all you've taken. And you've misconstrued the point. And again, it's not intentional. It's human nature. I mean, really interesting, on Twitter the other day, and this will be funny because you know me, I got accused of that I should stop being a high fat advocate and should start advocating for a higher protein approach. And I was like, oh, that's
some interesting. Okay. Wow.
I'll take that under advice.
I can't even imagine what you posted that someone would make somebody think that.
Look, only because he's relatively well known. I won't mention his name, but if you want to go through and have a bit of a read, it's on my Twitter.
I'll go look at Twitter now. Okay. Wow.
So that's a bit interesting. But coming back to the if it fits your macros and why I think it generates a poor relationship with food is because with if it fits your macros, people still remain addicted to those foods. There is still the combination of fat plus carbohydrates together and the dopamine response that comes from that, where you never break the addiction. And what happens is when people move away from eating those foods, they feel like a state of restriction. So I can't eat. I can't eat deep fried foods.
Yeah, it's like
And And then because you have that state of restriction, you're spending fucks not to eat it. You're attributing a higher value to the food than what it really has. You want it more, and eventually you'll break and you binge eat on that food.
Yeah.
And the issue isn't the issue is that you've never made the conscious decision not to eat the food for health reasons.
Right.
It's a choice.
It's a choice, and it's the small things, right? So in the reverse of what we talked about earlier about building habits and starting small, that reinforces and it actually helps the wall grow. You're building the wall and you're making it harder to make the choice to go the other way. Yeah. Right? Right. 100%. So you're going this way for the wrong reason. So you're kind of on this track and you're building a wall along you as you go to get on the other track. Now you've got to hop over to this wall. But the longer you stay on that IIFYM, where it's just like, just keep eating. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what it is. That wall is getting bigger and bigger, and it's harder to break away. You know, when you want to actually look at health perspective, not just how I look. Yeah.
Well, I'll share an anecdote. So, I mean, I've spoken to you a little while ago, the fact that I was considering cutting out sweeteners. Did you remember that? Yeah. And I actually went through and I did it. I cut out all sweeteners out of the food. Out of everything, and I did that for about 3 or 4 weeks. And what I actually found, and I'm not super proud about this, but I'll be honest and a little bit vulnerable with the crowd. I actually found that I started binging. I never, ever cheat. I never eat bad food. It's just not. I don't consider that stuff bad. That stuff food. I've just got a list of things that I eat, and I eat them. And what I was finding is because I was restricting. You know, I'd be craving something sweet, but I was like, no, I can't have sweetness. I've just got to break this addiction. What I was finding is I was getting to the point, I was binge eating protein powder.
Because it was sweet.
Exactly.
It had some flavor. It had something to it, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And the thing is, I couldn't understand it. I was like, who the fuck binges on protein powder? You know? Like
500 grams of protein a day.
I'm not even kidding. I cracked 800 one day just simply from protein powder. Let me tell you, man, the cramping was real.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. The point was, right, that I was eating all of this food, and I'm like, again, I have an eating disorder background through like anorexia, not that you could really tell much anymore, which led into binge eating. So I've got those kind of like those demons that'll be with me for the rest of my life. And believe it or not, I cured this binging thing that I'd had for about a week or 2 weeks. I was really starting to get worried about it in one day. And you know what I did? I put sweetener back in my coffee. I stopped telling myself that I couldn't have it.
Just in your coffee. So did you stop? So before it was in a lot of things throughout the day and you just put it back in the one thing?
Well, I mostly just had it in my coffee anyway.
Okay.
Right. But the thing is, because I cut it out, I started attributing higher value to sweet things. So like I couldn't have protein powder because it was sweet, and then I'd go ahead and I'd binge on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or if I had a sweet craving, I'd be thinking about grabbing that fucking dark chocolate at the shopping center or things like that. Things that I never eat. I never eat that stuff. And it was because I was telling myself that I couldn't have it. And the moment that I just like, you know what, if I want a little bit of sweetener in my coffee, it's not harming me, it went away. I literally one day.
And that's one of the things that I try to work with my clients. And I tell them, like, look, you know, like in my plan, I have 3 levels, right? You know, some level of carbs, some level of veggies, a lower level, and then none, pretty much. Like you know, you have an option. How much of this food type do you feel you need to be able to maintain a larger homeostasis of an animal-based, you know, diet without having to feel like you're missing out on something? I don't ever want someone to feel like they're missing out. And a lot of people, I talk to a lot of guys and they're like, I love just eating meat all the time. This is amazing. This is awesome. You know, and then I'll have some guys are like, this is awesome, but I really miss this. I'm like, well, then go have it. Don't eat it 5 times a day. You know, don't eat it, you know, at every single meal, whatever, but just maybe once a day, go have that. Make yourself feel like you don't have to feel like you're missing out on something. As long as the majority of what you're doing is in the right direction, doing what you need to do.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So again, I really love giving usable advice because sometimes I listen to these videos. I'm like, you guys are great. What the fuck was the point of that? So,
we do kind of ramble a little bit. Sorry, everybody listening.
No, it's okay.
40 minutes, but whatever.
talking about, again, usable advice and what you can do for integrating a little bit of carbohydrate into your diet in a way that is healthy.
Yep.
Right. And I'm not going to talk about a cyclic ketogenic diet or even a time ketogenic diet. I'm not going to do that because they're performance tools. And we're not talking about increasing performance. And I'm not going to let you convince yourself that's why you're doing it either. Right. We're doing this because it's helping your adherence.
That's a whole nother discussion. You keep bringing up, then we could talk for hours. Okay, keep going.
We really could. Hey, listeners, how long do you guys have? Like, I'm here all day.
Right. I'm actually talking with Cal tomorrow.
Yeah, no, you said. Yeah. So so a way that you can integrate, I would say, a modest amount of carbohydrates, and by modest I mean if it's probably less than 100, preferably less than 50 grams, so some of carbohydrate. So something that is a decent portion. 50 grams of carbohydrate is a slice of cake. Like, you can fit that in, right? It's not eating an entire cake, right? I just want to put that frame of reference here, but there is actually a way that I'll tell you in a moment about how you can do this in a way that is both beneficial to your body composition goals and physiologically won't take you away from them either. So as a little bit of background, there is a hormone in your body called GLUT4, GLUT4, right? I won't go into the acronym, but essentially what it is it moves glucose from the outside of a cell into the cell itself and provides it as energy to the mitochondria. Now, GLUT4 is more active first thing in the morning, and it is less active at night. And it is active both in muscle cells and in fat cells. Okay. Now, that's actually why we're more insulin sensitive in the morning, because the GLUT4 is more active, and then throughout the day it actually declines. All right, and you become less and less able to clear glucose out of your system. However, when you exercise, particularly heavy resistance exercise in the 8 to 12 rep range to failure, what happens is the GLUT4 uptake increases only in muscle cells.
Okay.
All right. So what happens is that you're very insulin sensitive in both fat and muscle in the morning, right? Over the day, you become less insulin sensitive. We then train in an afternoon, right? Which then increases your insulin sensitivity only in your muscle cells. Right. We then eat your normal foods, plus we'll have a little bit of carbohydrate. Now, as a prerequisite, I'd say that if you're eating carbohydrates, you can't have fat with it too. That's hacking the system.
Correct.
So if you feel like you need to have that piece of cake or something else like that, that's fine, but it needs to be low fat too. You cannot do a high fat thing. Out of interest, cake is both high fat and high carbs, so cake is off the table.
You're kind of using the wrong food there.
Well, let's just say that you wanted some yogurt and fruit. Okay.
There you go. Yep.
So if you wanted yogurt and fruit, that's what you were craving, go for it. Right. Or you wanted a little bit of low fat ice cream, go for it. We can do that. Right. Get it out of your system, but do it after training and do it in the evening. So what I would recommend is if you fast throughout the day, have your normal meal at lunchtime, try and make it a little bit leaner just to offset a little bit of calories if you can. Come to dinner, eat a very lean piece of meat first, eat until you feel satisfied. So the cake sits in there, eat until you feel satisfied, right? So you're already full. Then you put out the one portion of your food out in front of you and you eat it as dessert and you enjoy that motherfucker like no tomorrow. You save it every bite, right? And you can feel secure in your knowledge knowing that because you've just trained of an evening, your muscle cells are more receptive to the glucose. It's going to take it up, replace muscle glycogen. It's not going to go to fat stores and you're going to be okay. It's out of your system. Tomorrow, get back on the game train and do exactly what the plan was.
And this can be done, and I wouldn't recommend that someone do a piece of cake every day, right? But if you wanted to incorporate carbs, maybe it's a sweet potato, maybe it's rice, or maybe it's something else, and then maybe once a week for that weekend thing. Hey, it's the weekend, I'm feeling good, I had a really good week, I want to enjoy it a little bit, I'm going to have that piece of cake for Friday night's dinner or whatever. But it's absolutely something that you can, and that is, like you said, that's that combination of the IIFYM but using the methodology of making it fit your macros on the more health side and what is this actually doing for me long term, not just how am I going to look. So that's awesome. Now, real quick, if we have a little bit of time left, let's talk about everything we just talked about is kind of playing around with the balance between health and performance.
Yep.
Right. So
yep.
I can be healthy and I can get to an optimal level of health, but that doesn't necessarily mean that on some level I'm going to be as optimally able to perform in a sport or in physique or in whatever some other higher level of I guess fitness endeavors than something else, right? So and again, that's where the differences between you and I think lie in our clientele. I'm looking more for health. You're more on the performance side. So I guess where like the methodology that we use, if anybody's listened to this whole thing, they can see that we're kind of saying the same thing, but how would you say that it's different? Like, what are some of the differences between training someone for health versus training someone for performance, outside of what we talked about at the beginning with being more deliberate? What are some other things you may say?
Okay, so generally speaking, I think that there is a need to integrate carbohydrates only when your training volume exceeds what you can recover it from before your next training session.
Okay.
So for most people, I'd actually say that if that's the case, if your training volume is so high that the glycolytic needs are beyond what you can generate from gluconeogenesis, the first thing you should do is just reduce your training load. You're overtraining.
Okay.
Right. However, let's just, when you are a physique competitor and we're at that late stages of getting ready, and so out of interest, for the majority of my clients, I won't ever put them that level of training volume that they specifically need to increase their glucose load unless it's required. You'll get better results otherwise. However, there does come a time, particularly late in the competition, where your body just does not want to do what I'm making it do. And it's not, your calories are so low and your training volume is that high that you literally cannot meet your glucose demands from the food that you're giving it. Your body is just running on empty, and you need to. It's controlled starvation, right? To get to, I'm talking for a male, like the 5%, 4 to 5% body fat levels, right?
Right.
So crazy lean. We need to do a couple of different strategies. So I integrate overfeeding or calorie cycling on a weekly basis. Some people like to use what's called a cyclic ketogenic diet, where they cycle in, frankly, embarrassingly large amounts of carbohydrates, normally from shitty food like cereal, right? I actually have an athlete at the moment. Her name's Suzanne Schultz. She looks amazing. She's getting on stage in about 5 or 6 weeks from now. And we're actually doing what I'm calling protein overfeeding. So she's on a protein sparing modified fast for 6 days a week. And then 1 day a week, she does a depletion workout. So depletes all of her muscle glycogen, and then eats literally 3.5 grams of protein per pound of lean body mass.
Okay.
So a lot of protein.
Yeah.
So for her, that works out at about 400 to 420 grams. She's a 120-pound female. For me to be able to do that, I'd be smashing 750, and we're actually getting amazing results to the point that we're actually going to get her up on stage by peaking. So, going through and doing the things that's required to make someone drop water, fill out their muscles. We're going to do that using protein overfeeding versus carbohydrate overfeeding, which is like the normal approach. Yeah. So I do integrate calorie cycling. I'm not a fan of cyclic ketogenic diets at all. I think they lead to bad relationships with food, because you end up spending the entire day, the week, restricted. And then I tell you, 1 day in a week where I want you to go through and eat nothing but Fruit Loops, fucking pancakes and ice cream, right? So 2 things happen. First of all, you start eating foods that just aren't good for you.
Right.
And, that itself is whole ball game. But on top of that, you spend the entire week looking forward to those foods.
I was just going to say
You know
that.
what I mean?
Yeah, you're not even thinking about what you're eating and how it's helping you throughout the whole week. You're just thinking about, I can't wait till Friday when I can have 800, you know?
And there's a bunch of research to say that it helps out leptin. I did this huge big write-up just recently about the fact that it does regulate leptin, but not to a degree that has any kind of physiological benefit. It doesn't improve hunger. It doesn't improve dietary adherence. Most people who do a cyclic ketogenic diet aren't actually doing a depletion workout hard enough in order to actually get the supercompensation effect it's meant to deliver. On top of that, the glucose that you're giving your body gets stored as muscle glycogen, which is great. However, you need to consume 5,000 odd calories in order to do that, right?
Right.
I could achieve the exact same result by giving you, 10 to 20 grams worth of glucose right before a workout for a total of 80 calories, 4 to 5 times a week whenever you train.
Right.
So do I want to give you 4,000 calories worth of food that you don't need, that isn't helping you towards getting shredded, or do I want to give you 800 calories per week in a way that is helping you?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I never recommend CKD. I just don't believe in them personally.
Sure.
Some people especially bigger males who do a lot of really high volume work, I will integrate a timed ketogenic diet. That's where you consume a small amount of glucose directly before your training session. I recommend 0.15 grams of glucose per pound of lean body mass. So for me, at about 165, 170 pounds lean, that's about 21 grams of glucose beforehand. And what I tend to find is that the insulin spike is there. It gives you everything you need to be able to push you through the volume and recover by your next training session.
Yeah.
It'll barely kick you out of ketosis if that's something that's important to you. Not that I really think it is.
Sure.
And it doesn't hugely affect your goals because it's 80 calories.
Right.
That's like a third of a latte.
Yeah. Okay. So again, I think you're talking at a level of specificity and exactness that someone who's just looking at, hey, I need to lose 20% body fat. How do I do that? The things that I'm working with people are much more general lifestyle related and building those habits and looking at, okay, let's just clean up what you're eating in general. And I don't need to get as specific and deliberate in what I'm doing with people because I'm looking at more of a broader picture.
Exactly. And I think even the majority of my clients who are in that level don't need carbohydrates. You just don't. You don't. Without being egotistical about it, I only do a timed ketogenic diet for myself when I'm going through like an extremely high volume phase. To give you an idea, that might be 25 to 30 sets per body part per week over 3 sessions, like crazy high amounts of volume that's just not sustainable. Then I'll do it. Otherwise, there's no need. Just eat more protein because that's all your body needs.
Awesome. That's a great way to end. Go ahead. No, good.
I was going to say, honestly, if you're asking yourself if you need carbs, you don't yet need carbs.
Okay. No, that's a great way to, those are 2 things. Everybody, Ella just said it. If you're not sure, eat more protein. If you think you need more carbs and you're not sure, you probably don't.
Spot on.
All right, guys. We're going to end now and we'll talk to you guys again. We will definitely have you back on, Ella. We got all kinds of stuff to talk about.
This is awesome. Sounds good. Talk soon.